Kennedy.
Mr. Wright, do you know a company by the name of U.S. Forensic?
I am aware of the company.
I believe they got in a little bit of trouble representing some of the companies in after Hurricane Sandy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What was that trouble?
And so they were involved in some of the cases where engineering reports were required after the event, and some of their work was sloppy at best or dead wrong at worst.
They altered some reports, didn't they?
That is my understanding.
Okay. And they were sanctioned by a federal judge. Is that correct?
So there were a couple of companies from the engineering space that were involved in this. Given some things that played out with this, there were some sanctions that were done. What we have done is collaborate with the attorneys general in both New York and New Jersey, as well as with the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General. Those are the folks who have the authorities and powers to follow through on those questions. I would highlight that one of the companies, not the one you're mentioning now, was convicted, given some work by the...
Well, you're familiar with the flooding we had in March and April of last year in Louisiana. I know
Very
you're
much so,
very
sir.
familiar. Why is U.S. Forensic still doing engineering work now in Louisiana?
So I cannot prohibit the use of a company unless we have gone through a complete debarment process. The convicted company has been debarred. Otherwise, that's the collaboration that we are doing with the Inspector General. What I can do and have done is fundamentally change the quality control of all of the work that is done by engineers so that as the various companies are involved in it, I can be assured of the outcomes.
Well, the federal judge in New Jersey accused this particular firm, these are the judge's words, not mine, of reprehensible gamesmanship. That's not enough to get you off the list?
Based on that, we worked and are continuing to supply information to the state's attorney general in New York and New Jersey who have the law enforcement capabilities to take actions against them.
Okay. Are you familiar with an attorney by the name of Gerald Nielsen?
I am.
I believe he had some difficulties in representing some clients after Hurricane Sandy too, did he not?
That is my understanding.
Could you tell me about that?
So I've never met Mr. Nielsen. My understanding is that he is employed by some of the Write Your Own companies to represent them in litigation.
His firm that he was representing was sanctioned $1 million for violating discovery orders in litigation after Hurricane Sandy. Is that right?
I'm not aware of the specifics related to sanctions related to him.
Okay. You're not familiar at all with that?
You listed a dollar value. I'm not aware. I understand that he was called into account by a judge, and based on this, I'll tell you that more holistically, not just that action, I have looked at and continue to collaborate with the Inspector General to look holistically at the actions of these lawyers.
Well, he's still representing the WYO companies, is he not?
My understanding is there are Write Your Own companies who still use him, yes.
And why is that?
So they have choices to use lawyers. They have, as they do that process, again, this goes back to the engineering side, if a lawyer has been debarred or disbarred, then I can prohibit their use. What I can do and did roll out last summer was fundamental changes to how we oversee all of the litigation work that is done. And so while I don't get to choose the lawyers, I do get to influence and ultimately direct the litigation strategy about when we should pursue that in court and when we should step back and says the right thing to do is settle on this case.
Yeah. Well, I understand. If I understand your testimony, you don't do anything unless somebody's disbarred, if they're an attorney, or if they're an engineer, unless they're what? I can change the quality standards. I can hold them to those from a control perspective. The ultimate selection of those is left to the Write Your Own companies unless they have been debarred. And you don't have any influence whatsoever? You can't pick up the phone and call these companies and go, hey, we've got some problems here?
Sir, I think the companies know my opinion of these various actors, the kind of open questions that, given their actions, that brought on questions of the credibility of the program. I've spoken very plainly about that. But again, sir, folks have rights to due process, and I don't have the ability single-handedly to remove any one player.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.